Now that I got my boards laid out, what I've done is put 4 in a row where possible, and then give me a little bit of space to walk between. Because let's say right here, I'll burn those boards 2 at a time on each side, then go to the other side. Just that way I don't have to reach over a lot to get all the boards burned. Something I want to point out is when you're picking out your boards, you want to have wide grain separation. That's going to give you a better looking burn, and some knots that I think it just makes it look better. In a perfect world, you can get all grain like that, but in my world, sometimes you don't get the perfect board for every board. You got to take what you can get. You'll run into boards like this that has really fine grain separation, which is not the best for burning. These boards are not the best boards for trim. They're bowed, and that's just a choice I had to take. I had to either take these boards or not have boards. So let me go get set up and I'll go over the actual tools that I'm using in this video. If you're interested in doing a burn yourself and you have a lot to burn, I would highly recommend the torch that I'm going to show you. I'll put a link in the description below. This is not a sponsored video. This is just a torch that I really enjoy using. Also, the adapters, I'll have those in the link in the description below, because this can fit on the little tanks or it can go on a big propane tank. This is the torch that I'm going to use. I'm not going to use one of those little torches that you get at the hardware store. I got this off Amazon. Once you see this thing in action, I think you're going to really think about getting one yourself. This is the adapter that you'll need. You can put this up here like this, tighten it down. This is all tightened down by hand fittings, and you'll be good to go. So that tightens down well. Actually has a plastic valve on the end of this that you can easily take on and off of your propane tank. All right, very simple to fire up as well. Turn your valve on. You want to turn this valve on until you hear the propane coming out. Press trigger. Turn it up. Turn down. Turn it off. Because I have a thin grain and a wide grain board side by side here, I'm going to start with these burns and show you the difference between this wide grain and that thin grain, what it's going to turn out to be. Both of those will work. Once we get stain on it, they'll both look really good. Right now, I think that one with the real fine grain, I don't think it looks that great. So if you weren't putting stain on it, it's really important to get those wide separation in that grain. Now that we have it all burnt, we got to turn it on its side and burn all the edges on both sides. Have you ever had anybody show you this work and not have their hands dirty? So the next process of this is staining the wood, and I'm just gonna get set up here and then I want to show you the actual stain that I'm going to use and how I'm going to do it. So I have a workspace in the middle, and I can reach both sides of the board. I'm going to be using Varathane Penetrating Wood Stain Classic Black. I'll show you what that looks like. So you're going to need 2 old rags, and these are like terry cloth style. One for putting the application on, one for wiping it off. This is very simple. We're just going to do this in real time so you get a good idea of how fast you can do one board. I'm just going to set this over here for right this second. I'm going to use this one as my applicator and that one as my wipe off, and we're going to do this board first. I've got basically a half a can. I don't know if you can see it in there, but got about a half can. I don't think it's going to be enough to do everything, so I'll have to go out and get more. So you just do it like this. I'm going to do the edges while I'm doing it. And we're just going to kind of wipe on kind of quick. And it doesn't matter. I mean, this is very hard to mess up, guys, because this is a burnt look. This doesn't have to be perfect. And the burn doesn't have to be perfect either. A burn actually shouldn't be a perfect burn because it's a burn. See this? You want to make sure to work in that stain in those type of spots. See, it kind of hides it better, right? I allow a little bit of time to soak in because I want this to be dark. And if I get a spot that I don't like that's a little light, come back, tap it with a little more, and then wipe it off. And that board is nice and dark. It might even look a little too dark for a lot of you guys, but let me say this. When I go to put on my protector or my sealer or my polyurethane, when I put that on, it's gonna pull out that grain. So it's gonna give it a nice, deep, rich look. And I'm gonna show you that a little bit later in the video, but I just wanna give you an idea of how fast you can do one board. I'm gonna go ahead and take care of all these boards. It's nearly taken me all day to get these burnt and stained. I have to let this dry a little bit longer to actually put my polyurethane or my sealer on there. So let me show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this Bona Mega 1. It's actually for floor finishes, so I felt like this would be really good for trim work because it would protect it really well. I had this left over. This is pretty expensive, I guess, when you're talking about per gallon, but if you're interested, I'll have a link in the description below for it. I actually did buy this off of Amazon. We finished a floor in a previous house and I had this one left over, so I figured, why not? Let's try it. I just want to discuss how I'm going to apply the sealer. I'm going to do it with a roller. I typically use like a sponge like this right here, but because we have so many boards to do, doing it with a sponge like this would take absolutely forever. So if these were all butted together, I can use a big sponge and do them all at one time. But I think I'm gonna try it with a roller, roll it on, because I have to do the edges as well. I think the roller is gonna be my best choice. I got me an old jug here. I cut the top off of it. I'm just gonna apply me some of the sealer inside of it. I'm just gonna dip my roller, get a lot on it, start putting it on the board. Don't worry about the little white splotches. This stuff pretty good at self-leveling. Like I said, this is for floors, so it does a pretty good job with that. You can see the runs on the side right there are the runs that are happening on the side. So I'll finish the top and then I'll come back and do the sides. And I do believe the roller is going to work out just fine at how the grain pulls out of that versus these ones don't have no sealer on it. That's what I was talking about earlier, is it may have looked too dark then, but I think this is perfect for what we're trying to achieve. So I'm going to do the rest of the boards, then we'll take a look at it once we get everything completed. Don't want to bore you with this process. It's pretty simple. Just roll it on, do the sides, wait for it to dry, then we'll start our install. And something I forgot to note is I used a satin finish because I don't want a real high gloss. So when this dries, we'll have a low sheen to it. And I gotta let this dry for a couple hours, and then I'm gonna start the install. I need to grab a measurement from these two sides, right at 36 inches. That's perfect. Now, let's get this other measurement. So I'll write my measurement back here. It's gonna be covered up. I'll put those two boards in. I'll grab the measurement at the bottom, the measurement at the top, and then we'll have the inside completed, and then we'll work on doing the outside of the window. Never hit this stuff with a hammer. I got it flush to the OSB. Got me a nice little space back there, probably around a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch for silicone. Then I'll come back and cap this side off, and that's gonna look really sweet, I think. And when you're nailing the sides, try to put your nails down here as low as possible, so when you put your next plate in, it covers the nails up. Now, because we're not installing this like a traditional trim and putting a 45 and then coming over and putting another 45 and making real tight angle cuts, what I want to do is put a board that's a little bit longer at the top and a board that's a little bit longer at the bottom, and then attach this board down to it. This is what all the windows and the bottom trims throughout the building will look like. On these cuts, like right here, you can see where they need to be stained or painted. Because we're going with a black wall on the back and we got some black over here on the sides, still gotta do some touch-up paint there. I'm actually gonna take and just put a little bit of black paint to finish that off. But this is my finished look for the windows. And here's that little lip that I was talking about, that when I was doing the measurements, I did it here and I did it here, but I did not do it at the bottom. And being that I didn't do it at the bottom, I didn't do it at the top. In here, I'm gonna have to cut or rip a piece of trim board that goes in that section. So I'm gonna take a measurement here in the middle, and then at the bottom and at the top. So the good thing about this table saw is it's got this quick arm on it. You release that, and then you go over here and you put that on 2 3/4. Then you come back, put that down, you raise your blade. That should be sufficient. So now that we have that ripped, we'll find the measurement from the top to the bottom. We got 81 7/16. And the reason I cut real slow is to stop a lot of the backside being blown out by the saw blade. Even though we have an 80 tooth on here, you can still get these blowouts on this pine board. All right, so let's see if our measurement worked out for us. Slides right in the spot. Absolutely perfect. Nail it. Let me show you my finished product here. This is about as much as I'm gonna be able to get done in this video. This gives you a good idea of what it's gonna look like. The things that I'm missing, I need the baseboards and these vertical boards down this section here. This was a big project. There's a lot of torched, stained, installed. Hopefully you found value in this video. If you did, please smash the thumbs up button because it really does help me out. I'm gonna continue to put out videos like this, so hopefully I'll catch you guys in my next project.